With Brock Lesnar implicated in the Vince McMahon scandal, he has been virtually erased by WWE. Will we ever see him step into a ring again? Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. By now, you're all fairly aware of the lawsuit that is against WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. The accuser, a former WWE employee, Janelle Grant, gave accounts of a lot of different instances of sexual harassment as the company is being sued for sex trafficking. It remains to be seen how this lawsuit plays out and what further implications could be, given that WWE is under ownership of Endeavor TKO Group Holdings. Could we see the removal of more of Vince McMahon's old team, some of his confidants, maybe even a family member? The last remaining one at this point is Triple H, who is the head of creative. Who knows where that will go? But they had to do some house cleaning. The first person that was gone was Vince McMahon almost immediately. He was asked by the head of TKO, Ari Emanuel, to step down. He released a statement either that day or the next day and announced he was gone from TKO. He was done, which is pretty crazy to think about that he finally got. But then details came out regarding the allegations of not only sex trafficking, but just sexual assault, sexual harassment, etc. And there was one individual not named, but there was no one else it could have been, really. It was said that a UFC heavyweight champion, a former UFC heavyweight champion, was involved. That to re-sign said former UFC heavyweight champion to WWE, to get him under a new contract, they had to use the ex-WWE employee Janelle Grant, the accuser, as a bargaining chip, a sexual bargaining chip, allegedly. Once again, no one was named, but there's literally nobody else it could be. The only other former UFC heavyweight champion that has stepped between the ropes of WWE is Cain Velasquez. I don't know if he ever signed a deal with the promotion, and if he did, he only signed one deal. He did not re-sign a deal, and the wording in the lawsuit says that to re-sign this former UFC heavyweight champion, Janelle Grant, was going to be a sexual bargaining chip of sorts. Now, this caused a change in a lot of plans, and I want to give the timeline of events to go over what was going to happen, how this all played out, and then ultimately ask and potentially answer the question of, could we see Brock Lesnar back in WWE, wrestling or just making an appearance? So going back to December 18th, we see a photo surface of a truck for WrestleMania 40, and Brock Lesnar is on the truck. He is being essentially advertised for the event. Lesnar will be at WrestleMania 40 in some capacity, as at the time anyone would have expected. And then we had a quote from Gunther on Busted Open Radio in December as well, where he said WrestleMania 40 is the time for that in regards to a match against Brock Lesnar. Let's see, but I feel in the long run, the one name I always bring up is Brock, because I feel like I'm the end boss to a lot of people, and I feel like Brock is somebody that has perfected being an end boss, and I gotta prove myself with him in the ring too. Of course, Gunther and Lesnar had a previous interaction at the Royal Rumble last year, and Gunther has been talking about wanting to face Brock Lesnar for the longest time. It would be mentioned by Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio that he was thinking you could do Lesnar versus Gunther. This was mid-January. Then January 25th, we hear about Lesnar's involvement. It says here in an article written by Ringside News, Vince McMahon has been accused of sexual trafficking and a lot of other allegations by former WWE employee Janelle Grant. In her lawsuit, Janelle Grant alleged that Vince McMahon shared explicit content of her without consent with other WWE employees, unnamed executives, and stars, directing her to engage in sexual activities with them. According to the Wall Street Journal, the suit alleges that in July 2021, McMahon instructed Janelle Grant to create personalized sexual content for a WWE superstar, described as both a UFC fighter and WWE talent. While the suit didn't name the individual, it identified him as Brock Lesnar. McMahon allegedly shared explicit photos with Lesnar, stating that he liked what he saw. After Lesnar agreed to a new WWE contract, McMahon texted Grant in August of 2021 indicating that that part of the deal was effing you. In December, McMahon allegedly gave Grant's personal cell phone number to Lesnar. Lesnar apparently asked her to send a video of herself urinating, and after she did, he called her a bitch. In December, the lawsuit claims that Brock Lesnar expressed a desire to set a playdate, but his travel plans were disrupted due to a snowstorm. So then the allegations regarding Lesnar come out. Vince McMahon allegedly has taken a dump on this woman's head, and Brock Lesnar requested a video of her urinating. Now we get to almost the end of January. On the 28th of that month, Dave Meltzer said this about previous plans for the Royal Rumble on Wrestling Observer Radio. It was definitely Braun Breaker who took Lesnar's spot in the Rumble. Braun Breaker was not scheduled for the Rumble. He was called up. They needed someone to look. Brock was going to be in there looking impressive, and they needed someone to fill those shoes. There wasn't a lot of guys they would have given that spot to. Then we get a report of the original plans. An article by Ringside News, January 28th. It is believed that Lesnar did not make an appearance for the match due to his name being associated with the sex trafficking lawsuit against Vince McMahon. It was also reported that Braun Breaker served as Brock's replacement for the match. John Pollock of Post Wrestling is informed from a source that Lesnar was originally set to work with Dominic Mysterio at the 2024 Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. It is yet to be determined if Breaker will replace Lesnar in this program with Dominic as well, which he obviously did not. And you would have to think that Dominic was probably going to maybe shockingly eliminate Lesnar, which would lead to them facing off at the Elimination Chamber. Lesnar would more than likely beat Dominic, and then he would go on to face Gunther WrestleMania. So Royal Rumble appearance was confirmed, probably going to be eliminated by Dominic, face Dominic at Elimination Chamber, beat him, face Gunther at WrestleMania, and probably lose to Gunther. Then we get another report on January 30th from Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, where he says it appears that Brock Lesnar is not going to be around for a while. Some people think ever. When it comes to talent, I hate to say forever, because most of the time it's not the case, especially if somebody can draw. They seem to find a way back. Then we hear from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful on X on February 2nd. He says Brock Lesnar has been removed from WWE's creative plans. Then also on February 2nd, PW Insider said WWEshop.com has placed 99% of all merchandise related to Brock Lesnar on discount sale. And speaking to WWE sources today, we were told that going forward, Lesnar is off the table from all creative pitches. So not only has he been removed from creative plans, they've probably said, don't pitch anything for Lesnar. We're not using him. Does that mean ever? Not necessarily. We move on to a comment from Eric Bischoff. He said this about the situation with Lesnar no longer being in WWE on his 83 Weeks podcast. I don't think Brock Lesnar is motivated to be a public person or is going to try to reclaim his fame, if you will, for lack of a better term. And if he's got enough money, he doesn't need it. Obviously, he was going to get back involved in the business again. But if you can put $5 or $7 or $8 million in your bank account after putting in a couple days' work, who's not going to do that? If you're physically capable of doing it, whether you love the business or not, if you're smart, you'll do it. Stack that cash. Go buy another farm. Go buy another one of those 700,000 John Deere tractors or whatever they are. Plant more potatoes or soybeans or whatever it is you do on your farm. That's what I would think Brock's going to do. I don't think there's any motivation on his part to try to resurrect his character. Bischoff would then predict his return to pro wrestling on February 10th, same podcast. Yeah, I imagine it. I mean, maybe in Japan, yeah, because they're not fully out of care. The culture over there is so much different. They're not paying close attention. You don't have political correctness, and I don't mean that in a divisive way. You don't have the kind of awareness and focus that the media puts on things that we consume every day over there that you do here. So do you see a scenario where somebody could offer, says No Rock, I believe that's meant to be Brock. So do you see a scenario where somebody could offer Brock a big chunk of cash to go over and perform in Japan where the audience isn't going to be, turned off by it? Maybe, but look at Brock. Mean that, and you pointed it out in our first attempt to do this show this morning. Brock's never been a public person. He's come out publicly and said he just didn't like people right first to be alone. Then we see by February 10th that WWE has removed Lesnar from their opening video package. 3 days later, February 13th, we would see Brock Lesnar publicly for the first time since this scandal He was going to support his daughter, was in the audience for his daughter Maya, who was doing shot put. Then on February 18th, Gunther would do an interview with GV Wire, where he was asked about his dream match against Brock Lesnar. And he simply said, I don't know if we'll see Brock again, if that's ever going to happen, but I'm wide open when it comes to that as of now. And then the WWE 2K24 video game that is coming out, Lesnar was supposed to be a playable character, and not only that, was also set to be in the showcase mode for WrestleMania. Right now it looks as though he will not be playable, but he might still be in the showcase mode. Maybe you just play against him. Now, when it comes to the future of Brock Lesnar, one thing that Bischoff touched upon was impossibly going to Japan. Sure, that's an option. I don't think that's likely. I don't know why Lesnar would go back to Japan. I feel like if he's going to do pro wrestling of any kind, it would be in WWE. But does he ever come back? Well, at the very least, you would have to think that if this blows over, which at some point it won't be as much in the zeitgeist, in the mainstream, it won't be in the headlines anymore, but right now Lesnar is all over the headlines. There's news articles still coming out every day about him. Once that is passed and we are well beyond that, could he get back in the ring? That is the iffy part that I'm uncertain of, and I don't want to give an answer one way or the other, but could he come back for a WWE Hall of Fame induction? I think that is the most certain way you will get Brock Lesnar back in WWE is for a Hall of Fame induction. But what do you think? Do you think Brock Lesnar will wrestle for WWE again? Be sure to let me know what you think about this situation in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.